team of Commissioner Jerica, Richardson, and we'll have to start from this one. Good evening, everyone. I am Arjho, Josephine Turner, and I am the Sustainability Community Cabinet Member for Commissioner Jerica Richardson. It's a great honor to host the Citizens Climate Lobby for a presentation, the second group that we are having for the Sustainability Environmental Advocacy Project. And this is the initial stages of stakeholder engagement. So to get us through for the night, we're going to have a welcome message at the same time, and then this is Climate Lobby presentation by Glenn, and discussion and Q&A, and also the next steps afterwards. So I would like now to turn over this welcoming to our Commissioner Jerica Richardson, for her message. And for everyone, please feel free to share who you are, what group you are part of, and during the discussion Q&A, when you ask your question, you are also able to have an opportunity to share who you are and what group you are part of. Commissioner Jerica?
Thank you, Arjho, and want to extend a thank you to everyone that joined the call today. So certainly, we're all passionate about seeing some type of progress in this area. And even if there's still clarity, I think we all have a passion to see where there's missing clarity. We have a passion to identify where we can increase that clarity and find solutions for some of the issues that we face as a community. So this platform is really that opportunity for us to engage with one another. But primarily, since this one's hosted by Citizens Climate Lobby, to meet CCL, understand what they do, and CCL's opportunity to share with me what the interests are and the objectives are, and the different resources that you all have, and what's the overall objective, so that we can see where there can be an alignment of efforts, both from the community standpoint and from a more formal standpoint, whether it's through my office or through the county. So I think that's really, I mean, I have a lot of objectives around sustainability initiatives, and I think Arjho is going to cover a few of them, but it's really just good to have us come together and share these passions, but certainly share our wisdom and our strengths and abilities to get things done. That's my welcome message.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to get off and take it on, Glenn, and introduce yourself, and also Kate, and then start the presentation.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll click the present, and we'll kind of roll into this first piece of it. I want to make sure this part works right up front. All right. Now, do you all see the slide, or am I sharing yet?
Nope, we don't see it yet.
Okay. We'll wait for a second here. So I've got to click the share button here, right?
Yep.
Screen share, and there's the tab. I missed it at the bottom. Now I think now you all should be able to see it, huh?
Yes, we can see it. If you just flip it over to presentation mode, we're good to go.
All right, and that's down here. Let's see. I'm working on a Microsoft presentation down here at the bottom left.
I'm right. Yep, you got it.
And then I got to move over a little bit, pull it up. There we go. Now you all can see it. Awesome. Technical, if that's the biggest problem we have, we are really making progress. I just want to thank Arjho for helping coordinate this, and Aaliyah, and Commissioner Richardson. You know, I placed a phone call probably sometime last fall, just some afternoon. I scheduled a call with her. She's got a great system in her website to say, do you want to talk to me? And she was there, and it worked out so great. And shortly thereafter, I received follow-up from Arjho, and it was such a nice surprise. And I just love that type of response. And Arjho got involved with CCL. She wanted to learn about it, and she's been to some of our meetings. And so she's, it's really been a neat little journey here over the last few months. And having this opportunity is very cool because Citizens Climate Lobby is national. And when you try to localize what we do, you keep looking at us as a region, as a state, and as a country, and as a world. And so it's big and it's small at the same time. So Kate and I have a challenge, and it's a fun one. The challenge is to present to you what we do at a high level. And we hope that there's enough interest at the conclusion of this meeting that you all say, geez, I'd like to learn more. Because if we go into the weeds, we'll be here for hours. There's so much to talk about. And before I actually go to the next slides and get more introductions going here, I wanted to just share our values with you to set the table. Citizens Climate Lobby, there's 7 values that we have. It's focus. We focus on what our objective is, and we don't wander off from that. We're not the scientists. We don't get into science debates about climate change. We focus on a solution, and we get a lot more done that way. We're optimists. You won't see a whole lot of slides in CCL with smokestacks and polar bears and things like that. We focus on things that really are going to help us get a solution in place. And we do it to stay optimistic, helps us stay motivated. We focus on relationships. We focus on integrity, personal power. Just setting this up. Nobody said, how do you do it? We just did it. And it's great to have the support with you guys just to put this together. And the last thing is we're nonpartisan. Nobody has R's or D's next to their name. And we don't talk about that stuff because it doesn't get us anywhere. The only time we talk about it is when we're preparing meetings with different people in Congress or local leaders. That's the only time we really focus on it. So that said, the table is set. I'm Glenn, and I'm a co-leader here in Georgia at one of our chapters. And you're going to be meeting Kate here in a second. She'll be introducing herself. I got involved with CCL. I grew up with a lot of water and a lot of woods and a lot of hiking and skiing and snowmobiling and everything else up by the Great Lakes. Big Packers fan. That's part of the country I came from. I moved here because I had a great job, and the job was right at the Galleria at Cumberland. It's now called Travelport, but back then it was called WorldSpan, and I retired a few years ago. But I moved here because of the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area. That's where these 2 dogs are. There's one there in the picture, if you probably can't see, but there's 2 golden retrievers. We've had 5 golden retrievers since we've lived here, and they've all been to this rock. It's our family picnic spot. We love the woods back there, and I just wanted to pass a little plug-in for this park. I don't know if you know this, but it's the number 16th most visited national park out of 423 park systems in the country. Number 16, and Cobb County and District 2 borders 2 of these great access areas through Cochran Shoals, and I think it's called Paces Mill. So we are really in an amazing district, and I love living here. It's just been great, 25 plus 20, 30, maybe 30 years now. And my little focus my last bullet point here is our world and its ecosystem are on loan from future generations. So that's my motivation. I say, what's my payback? I've enjoyed it. I want to make sure somebody else can enjoy all this. So now we will get to meet Kate.
Thank you, Glenn. Good evening, everyone. I am Kate Allan, and professionally, I work at JVN Consulting, which is a strategic management consulting practice that is headquartered right here in Atlanta. And personally, I have had a very strong passion for climate change solutions for several years. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, outside of the Great Smokies, and my whole family is avid hikers. So as I was growing up, our family tradition was that on Christmas Day, on Thanksgiving Day, we would go out to the Smokies and go on a hike. And then potentially, if we were lucky, go to a lodge afterwards and get a great hot meal. So I am a hiking and nature enthusiast. Most of my personal vacations include going to either national parks or other countries, but going to see the natural beauty there. And like Glenn, I'm really motivated to preserve that beauty for future generations. I found Citizens Climate Lobby on LinkedIn. I was just doing a search to see how I could get involved to promote climate change policy. And I found CCL. I've been a volunteer for probably 5 or 6 years at this point and had a really great experience. And my personal mantra is the future depends on what you do today, which really ties to the mission of CCL and why we're all here tonight is to invest in a positive future for ourselves and for future generations. So as far as what we're going to cover today, we'll start by talking about the Citizens Climate Lobby. We'll also refer to the Citizens Climate Lobby as CCL, and we'll talk about what solutions CCL supports. Second, we will talk about climate policy a little bit more, a deeper dive into how does it work and how does it impact us here in Georgia and Cobb County. And then we'll close out with our call to action. So we'll talk about what actions we can all take as individuals to build political will and drive change. So we'll go ahead and start with section number 1. Who is the Citizens Climate Lobby and what solutions do they support? So CCL's mission is to build political will for a livable world. And we do that several ways. We build political will by securing endorsements, generating press, media, grassroots support, and engaging with our country's highest political offices. So one of my roles within CCL is I'm a liaison for Senator Jon Ossoff's office. And what that looks like is I meet with Senator Ossoff's team and specifically his energy and environment aide several times a year and in regular correspondence throughout the year. But I put together a team, and that's actually how Glenn and I met as well, was on a lobby team, but put together a team to get in front of the senator's office and talk about solutions to climate change. And like Glenn said, we always keep those conversations positive and respectful and nonpartisan. So looking ahead regarding CCL chapters, CCL has over 590 groups throughout the world. And many of those groups are domestic in the US. And CCL has more than 200,000 supporters. And you can obviously see on the map where those are, but it's basically everywhere all over our country and across the world. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved as a CCL volunteer. So looking ahead to the next slide, I think we hit on some of these topics when we were speaking to the core values, but CCL is nonpartisan. And that means that we welcome anyone who is serious about solving climate change as a volunteer. So we work with members of Congress across the political spectrum to find common ground on climate change solutions. We're also relationship driven. Glenn, you can go back to the previous slide. I had a couple more talking points.
Oh yeah, okay.
We're also relationship driven. So we do build respectful relationships with members of Congress and with other people in CCL and other community members. And it's important to us to build the mutual respect and maintain positive, mutually beneficial relationships. Our volunteers are also effective. So we make meaningful contributions every day by building political will. And ultimately, we're people like you. So I found CCL on LinkedIn. Anybody can get involved, and we totally welcome the support and look forward to, hopefully building community with some of the people on this call who share some of the same motivations with us to solve climate change. Excellent. So CCL volunteers do make a difference. We talked about we're building political will through securing endorsements, generating press, grassroots support, and also meeting with members of Congress. And in 2021, the Citizens Climate Lobby helped get a couple pieces of bipartisan climate legislation signed into law. Glenn, did you want to speak to any of these specific bills?
Sure. The omnibus bill sounds scary for a lot of folks if you don't know what it is, but it's a big budget bill. And I think we've all had an earful about the bipartisan infrastructure bill. That took a while to get through. And it's not that we, made it happen, but we, through our support, and we had programs and motivations within our organization to stay in front of members of Congress and say, get it signed, get these things signed, because there are some energy type of budgets in those bills. So we wanted to get them passed. Growing Climate Solutions Act was kind of big. It's for Georgia, especially. We have a lot of agriculture in the state. And that one is really designed to allow farmers to have access to some of the land sequestration, carbon sequestration, kind of a way to generate additional types of funds for them. And bipartisan support. Who knew that we could get Democrats and Republicans to agree to something that said Growing Climate Solutions Act? It was cool, really, really neat. And the Senate has already passed that. And then Home for Homes Act is one that may not be familiar with, but that has a lot of energy efficiency funds for homeowners, for families, to really, for communities, to create a more efficient way of operating a household, upgrading things and things like that. So these are all moving in the right direction, but they're not enough to get to the goal. And the goal is to, of course, really knock the high levels of carbon out of our atmosphere and make this more livable. We're going to look at some of those numbers in a minute, but we had a successful year.
Absolutely. Thank you, Glenn. So as Glenn stated, the bills that he was talking about on the previous slide are meaningful in creating positive change. However, we know that global warming, climate change is a really big problem, and we have a big solution to address that problem, which is the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. We're going to introduce the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act here. It's a mouthful. And we're going to expand on it over the next several slides because we want everybody to get a sense of what this legislation means. But this is our focus is a national legislative solution that will reduce America's carbon emissions from fossil fuels and do that fast. Okay, so how does it work? It actually works exactly like it sounds. So the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, it charges a fee at the source. So with a carbon tax, a fee is applied whenever fossil fuels enter the economy. And this price flows through the economy, and it incentivizes businesses and people to transition to clean energy such that they can avoid this fee. And then the fee, the money that's collected from fossil fuel companies, is given as a dividend to every American family. So charge a fee at the source and then return that fee to American households. And this bill has a lot of different benefits, and we'll introduce these here and we'll continue to expand on them. But this policy helps us reduce America's carbon pollution by 50% by 2030, which puts us on track to reach net zero by 2050. It also incentivizes affordable clean energy. So as fossil fuels become more expensive, it accelerates the transition to clean, green energy. And affordable clean energy also creates a lot of jobs in the green energy sector. And some of those jobs are right here in Georgia, and we'll expand on that a little bit later. Also, pollution from carbon emissions is harmful to our health. So this policy also improves health and reduces pollution. So poor air quality sickens Americans today, and we would all benefit from having better air quality. And then finally, this bill puts money in the pocket of American families. So if the cost of products were to be increased by the fee that's put on at the source, the dividend that's awarded to every American family will offset that, making this transition to clean energy very accessible and even favorable to low and mid-income families in the US. So that's a little bit of an introduction. We're going to expand on how does this work, as well as talk about some considerations that are really specific to Georgia and Cobb County next. So I'm going to transition it back over to Glenn.
Yes, thank you, Kate. So there's a lot riding on what we're talking about. Energy innovation implies, I was taught this a long time ago, and I believe it, that one of America's great exports is our innovation. This country has innovated so many things, and we continue to lead the world in that category. And there's so much opportunity for our country to take the next wave of innovation into this clean energy sector, developing technologies that are going to help us get to those goals. You know, Silicon Valley didn't just happen. It happened because there were investments in aerospace back in the 1960s and such, and little by little those universities were involved with it, and innovation just started taking off, and all of a sudden there's this whole sector that has done so many things for our lives today. It's crazy, and I think we're looking at this as being another wave. And my question to everybody in the call is, does Georgia want to be a leader in that? Does Cobb County have a stomach to try to say, let's move forward with this and try to advance and attract technology manufacturing, because we are a low carbon producing county? Can we get to those points and make it attractive? There's enough data to say it would be worthwhile. Anybody who reads the newspaper or gets local web information from Georgia News would be aware of these three companies. These are huge investments. None of them are right here in the city of Atlanta. Most of them are just outside where the land is a little bit more accessible. But this is huge. All of these companies that are coming to Georgia are all in the sector of creating things that are basic. Now, how they produce them is going to create carbon, but what they're producing are solutions for the long term. Solar technology. I mean, we get a lot of sun here in Georgia. We're really, a great opportunity state to exploit that type of technology. And that's not the first one, but I think this kind of gives you a feel for the fact that maybe Georgia's on the cusp of something big. And I also wanted to just say that if we could get our low carbon energy model put together, we also become competitive internationally. And I'll explain that in a second here. I hope you all can see this. Kate talked about the fee at the point of entry. In other words, if you start digging a bunch of coal out of the earth, and at the point of that extraction, we apply a carbon fee, that money and all that money rolls up into a big bundle and gets returned to households, to individuals. Now, none of that money stays in the federal government. So we haven't grown the federal government. That would be a tax. When the federal government taxes and they get bigger and they create departments and things like that, that's an expansion of federal government. That's not what we're supporting. We're asking, let's take the money, put it in the hands of the citizens, and then it keeps the economy going. And the neat thing about this bill that we support is it also has a border adjustment. So on the right-hand side of this presentation, you'll see that by doing a border adjustment, that would mean that any country that's not supporting low carbon, no carbon practices, when their imports reach our borders, there will be a tax applied to those, and those taxes roll up into the same bundle. And I'm going to show you guys something in a second that might help make this a reality or make it more understandable. There's an organization called Climate Leadership Council, and we work in partnership with these guys on a lot of things. They provide a lot of good data for us. They published this piece called the Economist Statement on Carbon Dividends, and that's what we're talking about, carbon dividends, money back to the citizens. Well, this was published just a couple of years ago, and if we're not hearing our legislators talk about this, why are so many people in the economists world talking about it? And I'm talking about, you could see and read for yourself here, the list. The powerful one at the bottom are economists. And I'm telling you, economists from UGA, Georgia Tech, Kennesaw State, they're from all over the US, over 3,000 of them. They support this concept as the most efficient way for us to reach net zero carbon without growing the government and doing it where the market dictates how quickly we move towards low carbon, no carbon options. The fellow who actually is the CEO of this company is this Greg Bertelsen. And this is a very short video clip, but I'm going to play it for you all. I'm going to make sure my volume's up. Let's see if we can listen to him. He's going to explain how this works and how it could be an advantage for us.
Here's the real benefit to the United States in the short term, along with becoming a leader on climate action, is we're going to create a competitive advantage for our US companies because we have already made the investments to ensure that our economy is more efficient, meaning we can make the same or similar products as our competitors in China and elsewhere while emitting less carbon. Now, that is a wonderful environmental story for our country, but we should be leveraging that to our economic advantage to benefit our companies, our manufacturers, our workers. And if we priced carbon and assess that fee at the border, the same price based on the emissions that are coming from China and elsewhere, we're going to instantly give a competitive advantage to our manufacturers and our workers. We did a study recently which showed the US steel industry as just one example. If we were to price carbon, because the US steel industry is of the most carbon efficient in the world, meaning we can make a ton of steel while emitting less carbon than almost anywhere in the rest of the world. If we were to price carbon and then assess that same fee at the border, our manufacturers would win across the board in every region of our country. We would max out capacity, which means more jobs. We would increase profit. We would increase revenue. We would win, but we've got to be strategic.
So that gives you an idea that I'm not the only one talking about this. I'm just repeating what I'm learning here through a CCL, and I love things like that where somebody can give an example of an industry that can take advantage of this. So what we've talked about so far are that, we believe that this Energy Innovation Act, that this will create jobs. It'll reduce greenhouse emissions. It's going to improve health outcomes. My gosh, when you look at the health outcomes of the challenges of the Douglas Cobb reports that they publish, so many of the problems in our healthcare right along the same sector of District 2, Cobb County, Fulton County, and our region. We have a lot of issues here in this metro area because of the quality of our air. And I know you're focused on water. Well, when we have high temperatures in our water systems, our drought risk. We're dependent on rain, runoff. This is a runoff state. We have issues with what happens when water temperatures get too much, too high. What kind of bacteria, what kind of issues can happen in our regular water systems that children get exposed to? There's a lot of things that could fall out from having rising temperatures and us sitting back and doing nothing. This will apply fees to those imports. This will pay dividends to you, to your children as well. It won't increase the size of our federal government. It doesn't require EPA regulation. So this is not a regulatory type of bill. This is not one where a heavy-handed federal mandate's going to come down and tell people what to do. It's market-driven. And it doesn't require the United Nations or foreign mandates from other countries or organizations to approve it. This is an American-made solution. Kate, it is your turn.
Thank you, Glenn. So Glenn has spent the past several minutes talking about the economy and jobs, but we also wanted to talk about this issue from a different angle and discuss social issues and public health issues and the link to climate change. So I wanted to talk about, why should climate be a priority for us now? Why should addressing climate be a priority for us now? And as we're all intimately aware, the past several years have been dominated by the pandemic and the health crisis and the up and down economy and the economic impacts overall of the pandemic. Plus the social issues of racial inequity that have been in our state and in our country very present over the past several years. So given these other big issues that we're facing in our communities, why should climate be a priority now? And, in short, the answer is because in a lot of ways, these issues are related. So if you'll go to the next slide, Glenn. So minority communities tend to be disproportionately affected by the effects of climate change because people are working jobs that are outdoors on the move or living in more densely or potentially more polluted areas. In fact, minority communities are typically located near factories or close to industrial areas, which release air pollution, which contributes to a higher temperature in those areas, leading to those communities being disproportionately affected by climate change. So therefore, climate change is a racial justice issue. Climate change is also a public health issue. So as reported by the New York Times, there is a link between the degradation of the environment and pollution and respiratory illnesses like COVID-19. So there's been research done that's actually linked air pollution to higher coronavirus death rates. And then finally, Glenn has talked about the economy, but climate change is obviously an economic issue as well. Glenn spoke about the benefits of carbon fee and dividend. Climate change could also be devastating economically if we don't do something to progress it, to stop it from progressing and getting worse. So as reported by the Washington Post, extreme weather events, cuts to global productivity, and other effects of climate change could cause major global economic losses unless greenhouse gas emissions are significantly curtailed in the next few decades. So the economic effects of climate change could be equivalent or far worse than what we've seen with the pandemic over the past several years. I think that these points are relevant because these issues affect people right here at home in Georgia. And we will be distributing the deck, and I included all of my sources here because I'm not an expert in any of these things, but I am somebody who cares deeply. So if you want to learn more, the source material is there, and you can certainly read the articles. But I'm going to turn it back over to Glenn to discuss more about a changing climate right here at home in Georgia in Cobb.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, so what's happening in Georgia? Well, in preparing for this, there's so much information out there, you can get overwhelmed. what I've discovered, if anybody's interested in doing their own research, and I would recommend it to anybody, to look yourself and don't depend on groups sending you things, because I don't trust a lot of that. There's a lot of disinformation out there. So I went to several university websites. Yale, oh my gosh, Yale's got great stuff. MIT, but right in our backyard, Georgia Tech, smart folks over there. Gosh, this guy put together some really, really neat data points. He pulled together data from like 31, I think it was, different sources, and he modeled where he thinks we're going to be in like over throughout the rest of the century. And if you look at this map, the highest increases in temperatures are going to be, you could probably follow the interstate systems out of Metro Atlanta, but we're in a sweet spot in the north central area, and look to the east of us. And there's a lot of new manufacturing going on out there too. But we're all in this together, not to overuse that expression, but all the air, that's the problem. It's all shared. So the byproduct of what happens in North Georgia or south of us or right in our backyard impacts all of us. And so I'll show you what this professor has pulled together. There is our county with a little green line around it. The yellow is the District 2. And if you look at District 2, we're right on the edge of a hot zone. This professor thinks that, you know, if we just keep doing what we're doing, we're going to hit about another 7.68 degrees higher than we are right now. So that's a big jump. And he also puts in his materials, if we do something, we could reduce that by over 3+ degrees. That should be an awakening. That if we don't do anything, that's where we're going to be. If we do something to mitigate it, we can reduce that. But it doesn't mean we're going to even stay at the same level. Carbon stays in our atmosphere for a long, long time. It doesn't just dissipate. So I think that's a real powerful slide. And protecting District 2, Cobb County, Metro Atlanta is really working together regionally and working with our state, our legislators, and our federal level congressional people. It's a lot of work that we have in front of us, but we're positive and optimistic, and we're so happy to be sharing this story with you. The other piece that's interesting is the number of dry days increase. Those dry days, we've all been through some really tough summers here where it seems like it hasn't rained or it's scattered. You're just praying for a thunderburst over your house to just rain on your grass somewhere. But those even increase with his predictions based on these data sources. Now, if that story has some validity, I would go back to this Georgia Tech professor and ask him. I did, and he got back to me. He's a tremendous guy. He's very accessible. So like Kate said, anything that we're presenting here can be followed up on. This happens to be one of our volunteers. Sarah is from North Georgia, and she's got a very short message for you all, and I think you'll get a lot from it. I certainly did. She's one of my favorites. So here's Sarah's story.
I am an 8th grade physical science teacher. I'm also a National Center for Science Education Teacher Ambassador for Climate Change. And I'm also the Dalton Citizens Climate Lobby chapter leader. I got a lot going on. I really, really love the excitement level of middle schoolers. I try to take and harness their energy for good. We start by looking at very basic phenomena. Kids are capable of looking at a newspaper article and seeing, hey, why did Hurricane Harvey dump so much rain on Texas? And then we can do a lab in class with boiling water, and I can say, what are the molecules doing? What are they doing when we heat up our Earth? For the most part, my students are very interested in climate change, and I can tell that they're nervous about it. And if I start talking about it here in my classroom, then students see how it's done and they're capable to do it themselves and maybe bring it up at home at the dinner table. In Northwest Georgia, it's very conservative, and people here have really big hearts and they really care about their fellow man. They also really love the environment and they love our natural world. We're in the perfect location to be at the forefront of this new day in energy. We have a brand new solar manufacturing plant here in Dalton. So passing our legislation is good for Northwest Georgia. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. My mom was a single mom. And so when I was given a gift, it was special. And that's how I teach my children with their things. I want you to take care of it. I see their beautiful faces and they talk about what they want to be when they grow up, and they talk about where they want to live, and every opportunity that I had, I want for them. My modern life would not be possible without the technological revolutions that we've had in the past. So I am grateful for what fossil fuels have done for me. At the same time, I can recognize that after you do something for a while and it's starting to cause harm, that maybe it's time to transition to something new. I got in CCL and I had no idea what I was doing. CCL really has given me the tools and has empowered me and has educated me to be able to take the steps that I need to take to protect the world for my kids and my students. Today at school, we got news that the football scrimmage has been canceled because the heat index is too high. It's not safe, and having a few of these days every now and then is normal. What isn't to be expected is to have the number of these days continually increase. How many times are my students not going to be able to go outside? We're not talking about some distant future. I'm talking about kids that are going to be during my career. Will they be able to go outside? Climate change is hard to look at. I'm not interested in turning away from ugly things. I will look the ugly things in the eye and say, we can fix this.
All right, so that's Sarah. And Kate, you want to just do a wrap up on what to do next?
Yes, we will quickly wrap. I think that there are ways to get involved in CCL that are a fit for almost anyone. We have members who write letters to the editor. We have people who canvass. We have people who lobby. That's my personal passion, is that I really enjoy lobbying. We have a lot of opportunities for training and new skill development within CCL. So if you're new to being an advocate or having a voice for a social issue, there's a lot of training opportunities with CCL as well. So there's different levels of political will, and I found it really empowering to identify the levers of political will that are a real fit for me and feel like I have a voice and that I can take action that benefits my community, my country, and world. So what can you do to take action? I think we can all start at home by talking to our friends, families, and communities about climate, have fact-based conversations. We can also act locally, gain support from endorsers and local leaders. We are so grateful to be here tonight in order to be able to get in front of you guys. And, we have businesses that are endorsers. We have representatives that are endorsers. We'd also love, if you're interested, to plug into a local CCL chapter. And we have several in Atlanta. We have a North Atlanta chapter, a Kennesaw chapter, an Atlanta chapter, a Georgia Tech chapter, so on and so forth. And then for more information, we do have a couple of links. You can, of course, Google Citizens Climate Lobby, and you'll be navigated to our website. There's more about the bill in the second link. We also do have intro calls for people that are new to CCL so they can get plugged in with the different things that are available. But we do want to go ahead and end our slides here such that we have a few minutes for questions. So thank you everybody so much for your time.
Fabulous presentation, Kate and Glenn. So we are now open for questions, suggestions, insights from anyone. And if you would please say your name before you ask your question or your insights, or share your insights.
Hi there. My name is Natasha Dyer. I work for the City of Atlanta, formerly the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and now Department of City Planning. And I was just curious more about the Growing Climate Solutions Act. Is that a federal act, or is that just Cobb County? Or like, I'm trying to figure out the who, the how, where the funding is coming from for both of these acts. Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, it's a federal level act. It's cleared the Senate, and I think it's really that's what I think. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I call that low-hanging fruit. It's bipartisan, and it helps a lot of Georgia in so many counties, and it opens up the door to a population of people who really otherwise would not be engaged in this type of discussion even. There is a lot of good information on it on the internet. And then I think once I don't know if we have a link in this presentation, and we could add a link for the final link, because I know, Arjho, you said you wanted to be able to get a final copy.
Yes, what we usually do is that because we wanted to be transparent and have this presentation be made public and available. Okay. So if we could share, somebody's asking already, Miss Lynn Walson is asking for the link in the chat. And also once the team of Commissioner Richardson is going to publish it in her YouTube account, we will also include there the links that you will have to prioritize for people to visit too.
Okay,
I guess thanks. Because I'm very interested in it, because it talks about carbon farming and kind of, I guess, drawing carbon back into the soil. And I'm just wondering if there's funding for like urban ag or people that actually work on this stuff. So I guess I had a lot of questions for both of these acts, like even like the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. I'm trying to figure out, like, you know, how do we like how is that happening, and how is the money going back into people's pockets? Because I think this country doesn't even seem to have a handout for funneling the wealth to actual taxpayers a lot. So I have a lot of questions about what was discussed. But just wondering I'm just wondering what all the levers are that make this type of stuff start to kind of happen, or how cities or how, because I guess this is a Cobb County meeting. So I'm wondering like who's behind it and how different entities can get involved with getting the funding or getting some of this stuff to artwork. That's what it is.
So I have, just to be clear, it's a CCL hosted, they're hosting this session. So we circulate through different organizations, and they're sharing more about what they do and what they would like to see in partnership from the office.
I'd like to maybe answer that just because of time. I think what I might be hearing is that, and we have a chapter that is CCL Atlanta. They have a lot of relationships built within the city council and such. In fact, one of our new members that just joined us on our last call is working on some things with the city. And what I'd like to do maybe is offline, get you in touch with one of those representatives. And I think having this kind of conversation where you can localize it and then say, what can we do, might be really helpful. Because it's going to take, like I said in the beginning, this is high level. This gets to go into the weeds takes a lot more time than the hour that we had here.
I think we should go into the weeds though. I'm only saying this because I think a lot of the people on the phone actually kind of know the situation and the I guess what we're talking about. I think when you get people who are on the call in the room to discuss these topics, I think there should be more time to discuss what you're actually presenting and figuring out what the ask is from the people in the room. That's really all I'm going, because now we have 10 minutes and you presented a lot of great information, and I don't even know what the ask is on how to kind of push some of this information and kind of use what you've shared to actually now go further the work that we're working on. That's really what it is. Yeah.
Well, I think that's good feedback for us on how to make the presentations actionable going forward. So thank you for that, Natasha. And I think the one-liner for the Growing Climate Solutions Act is that it works with farmers to have more sustainable agricultural practices. I would also be happy to deep dive into this one and get into my notes. I know we don't have time for that tonight, but I actually know Natasha. I think she's a fabulous mentor. I was part of the Sustainability Ambassador Program, so I'd be happy to discuss that offline, as well as the carbon fee and dividend solution. I'm not an expert, but I'm happy to transparently share everything that I know.
And forgive me, Kate, your name is very familiar, but I was like, that can't be the same Kate from the Ambassador Program. Now I feel like
the same Kate.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I would love to talk about that. That's just it. Everything you guys have mentioned is my brain is sparked, and I just would love to talk about this stuff in depth and kind of see what your ask is from this community to actually further what you present. That's all, really. So
that was going to be one of my questions, is because I usually take what was presented and say, okay, you're looking for this. What can I do? You're looking for this, what can I do? And then also share what we're trying to do as an office so that we can find where that corollary is. So that's kind of my question is what would you like to see from my office?
Yeah, let's start there next time. Yeah, because we know who's in the room and we're from Cobb County. Let's get into the meat of it. And I'm so curious that I've actually been so vocal. And actually what I shared with Kate is that I attend these things and like it's an hour of someone framing a problem that we all know what's going on. So we talk about stuff all the time. So I actually would love to come to a lot more of these where we just get into the meat of it and start working and start trying to figure out what we're doing, because that's why eventually I can't come to everything, because it's just someone framing a problem that I'm sure everyone on the call knows how serious climate change is. That's why we're here. So let's start working with some of the initiatives that are here and figure out what your ask is of the people on the phone. And I'll come to all this stuff for real if we're just going to start like doing more like elbow grease and kind of figuring out how to push this stuff in our counties. Sorry, yeah, because you know what it is, I'm at a conference right now. I made time for. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be. It's just I'm not. I always tell people I'm not that diplomatic. I don't know how to sound. I don't know how to put my emotions. But like, yeah, I just finished a conference. I'm out of town, and I put time for this because I want to hear what my county's doing. But yeah, if I'm going to be here, let's get to work, y'all. Let's go. Climate is very serious, and we know it's very serious. So let's figure out what the next thing we want Cobb County to do, and I'll come to everything you got, girl. I'm sure. So,
Natasha, yeah, that is a great idea, and that is the purpose actually for where we're going next. Because this meeting is specifically for us knowing what CCL is all about and what is the advocacy. And if I could share, Glenn, the 3 focus for sustainability to answer Natasha's concern with respect to the actions. I need to share my screen, but I think Glenn, if you're done, you could, I can just like share my screen and so to answer Natasha's question, that is the meat of where we are moving forward, really. So with respect to the CCL presentation, definitely the focus is really air, right? And we wanted to share everyone. This was presented during the kickoff of the Sustainability Environmental Project. And of course, the intersection of water, air, and soil, and where we're heading to this and why we will be needing the brains. I've met amazing people in the CCL team, professors, retired, very passionate people. And I think the environmental justice agreement, you can really like have an input to that. So I think that will be with respect to scope, because we cannot be everybody to everyone. We can really like make on a workable thing. And Commissioner Jerica Richardson knew that well. That's why in her sustainability, even as broad as it is, her focus for environmental justice agreement is on soil, water, and air. So CCL, you are perfectly on the air. So you're perfectly on that kind of aspect. So right now, so moving forward, we're very adaptive in our approach for this project. And we did our kickoff last year. We heard from our Archdiocese of Atlanta. And today is Citizens Climate Lobby We are hoping for more organizations. We're actually planning to at least host 2 organizations in a month that will do a presentation like this. And well, we are now doing some virtual thing because of the rise of COVID-19, but that's where we are at. We are at the initial stages of knowing our stakeholders, and that's why we ask people to register so that when we do the planning stage, we can reach out back. We are not just asking you right now to share all of this, dump, then no action is going to happen. That is not, that's just going to be a waste of everybody's time. So the impact of what we are trying to do is hopefully we can have a management planning workshop on the environmental justice, and with your expertise in the CCL team, with your advocacy, I think that would be a perfect one to get onto the solution. And I'm sure Commissioner Jerica Richardson, I know that she has her insights on this one. And what's your heart on this, ma'am, as we are, yeah.
I appreciate that, Arjho, and I certainly appreciate the presentation that was given. And Natasha, we're vibing, but some of the things I heard that sounded like semi-asks. So I would say one of the things you might be looking for are people to assist in advocating for this, right? And we have a lot of students, interns that run through our office who are really passionate about sustainability. And I think it would be just a fantastic opportunity to pair them up with CCL so that they can get that extra layer of engagement with leaders and learn how to talk about these issues in a way that can advance things forward. Another thing, and this is kind of why I'm trying to pull out what was in the presentation, and if you do have specifics, let me know and I'll stop my guessing.
Well, I would be happy to at least take a pass at giving you some specifics.
Okay, go ahead.
You hit the first one. You just hit the nail on the head with having more voices in the conversation. So having people plug into a local CCL chapter. We're going to send out the deck afterwards. Glenn's information is in there. You can find me on LinkedIn, or Glenn can connect. Number 2, I think Commissioner Richardson, we would love to have you as an endorser for the bill, or have you consider it. We're certainly not looking for an answer today. And we would love to have you or somebody from your staff potentially participate in an upcoming lobby call with a U.S. Senator. We'll have some of those coming up in the spring, and it always carries a lot of weight to have a local leader that has a lot of pull in the local community be able to participate in those conversations.
Okay, thank you. So for the first one, like I said, I think that's a partnership we can certainly work through. I know Leonard's on the call with Archdiocese. It's kind of a similar ask coming from that, with really just that participation and doing some type of educational fair around sustainability opportunities. For the endorsement, certainly I want to read through that bill, understand it. Arjho is also going to be kind of my eyes and ears on that too. I care about sustainability initiatives, I guess. So, really just digging in deep and asking some questions around that. As for the upcoming lobbying call, it really just depends on the nature of the call. I do have a very great relationship with our congressional representatives at the Senate level and at the U.S. House level as well. And so just depends on the nature, but happy to advocate or look for different opportunities, or whether or not it's integrating language into certain bills that we might see, or working with the EPA even on the other side, where there may be some opportunities as well from a federal agency. So I think that there are opportunities there. Okay, any other asks?
Glenn, I'll open the floor.
I would just say this, that the other ask would be that you've got your colleagues, your other commissioners. I would like to see if there's opportunities to either share this presentation, or for us to meet with and continue this dialogue, and to develop maybe some of your staff to get them involved, and they could participate in some of these conversations.
Speaking of staff, they're actually on the call.
Okay, great. And
continue.
yeah, and the lobbying piece is huge. Kate will tell you, we went in and met with Senator Kelly Loeffler. We met with Senator Perdue's office. We learned so much, and you get so much energized when you speak to these folks and their staff, and you share your story, and see where we are on the radar, see where climate is on their radar. And that's why we need education. We need more people. When people are surveyed, they say, what are your top issues? They say the economy, COVID, whatever, inflation. Climate gets buried, and it's so important, and we have to raise the level of this importance to so many people who they think it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's not overwhelming if we crystallize it and say, let's focus on a solution that's bipartisan, and then it seems like it might be easier.
That sounds like I think there's a real opportunity for the educational. I think all of the organizations that are hosting us will benefit from doing some type of educational push. Just to let you know from the county though, Kimberly is here, Dr. J is here, Dr. Gibson is here as well. Kimberly's with Keep Cop Beautiful, Dr. J is our entire waste management, sustainability waste management department, and Dr. Gibson is from Senior Services. So we have some pretty good. That is awesome
to know, Commissioner. It's very good to know that they are here, because this stakeholder engagement is primarily community level. We have not really gone to the level of the county level, because that is the role that Commissioner is doing. But it's good that the county level people are able to come here, because as a community, once we're able to really craft, then they're part of that engagement, because we have to also balance and adjust with what the county already have, and how can it be strengthened. And Commissioner Jerica Richardson wishes to have a stronger environmental justice agreement, and that will be inclusive of everyone in different levels. That's so right. Are there any more questions? For the interest of time, where we are very cautious about respecting everyone's time. If there's any final thoughts and questions, so that I could give the final words to Commissioner Richardson.
Just one final thought. I was on the last call with the Archdiocese. Mark Meredith is on this call. He's from my parish. Holy Family does some things with creation care, and it's so neat to see so many the utilization of different resources from different organizations moving down the same path, the same long-term objective. There's a fellow on here, Clarence Blaylock. He did a lot of work in the Cobb County area. He helped me with a couple of these slides, pulling some data together. He just joined CCL, at least from I know, on the first call last week. And he's sitting here participating in this process. And so I love the engagement, and I am grateful for you, Commissioner Richardson and Arjho, for pulling this together, and Aaliyah for organizing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the next thing is that we are not going to stop here. We are still going into the planning stage, but we are open if you have any information already, especially on the priority with respect to air, because on the county level, how to impact the local policy, that is the role of Commissioner Richardson. So we are hoping, and is this an assumption that you are at least in supportive to her environmental advocacy agreement? Because that's one thing we wanted to know for tonight and moving forward. Is CCL somehow in support to that 3 top priorities, especially on air?
Yeah, Kate, I think Kate could answer that one as well as me. We definitely would like to. We think it's hard to not have it part of it.
Okay. It's important. It's a team buy-in of stakeholders from the very beginning, because we don't want it to have later on for commentaries and stuff. So final words, I wanted to give the final words to Commissioner Richardson, and then
I think we lost Arjho.
There we go.
I'm
Okay, you're back. I will, and Lynn, yes, to your point. So all of those 3 things are in there, right? Water, air, soil. We just felt from CCL's perspective, certainly a lot of work and focus on the air side, but there are certainly touches on the soil side. But all of that is a part of the EJA. we're really just trying to make sure that when we're building this, it is comprehensive in nature, because it's supposed to deal with a list of policies, procedures, and programs that empower residents with information, actionable information about their water, soil, and air. That is the scope of the Environmental Justice Agreement, and it is broad in terms of how we can build those solutions. I even foresee if we wanted to do a miniature version of a fee on emissions, there are, not that that's something we can do or should do, it's just if you were to tie it to a local community, that would be something that could show up in the Environmental Justice Agreement. When it comes to the coal ash ponds, how that's regulated, how that's understood, monitored, rectified, et cetera, there are opportunities there as well. So I think I appreciate y'all's support and wanting to be able to contribute to what that looks like and what we can do as a local jurisdiction, and certainly advocate for on other levels of government. And I hope we can find our next host as well, Arjho. But great job.
Yes, so at this point, I just sent a private message to Miss Lynn Walson. We are open for next community that would do their presentation. As I said, we are at least maybe, depending on the schedule, Commissioner Richardson, if we can do twice a month so that we can speed up the process of stakeholder engagement and then this stage. And that would be awesome. So if any of you are here, especially Cobb County, you have stakes in Cobb County with respect to soil, water, air in these three top priorities, please do give us chat message or communicate to Commissioner Richardson if you got direct access. We would love to hear from you for the next session. So we are open. Natasha, so we are even open. We are hoping for Sustainable Smyrna to be the next Cobb Transit, the group of
Sierra
Match
Club.
Sierra Club. We're trying to really reach out. So hopefully next month we're gonna have 1 or 2 maximum, and we would love to continue this. And before we can move on into the planning stage, the meet, and definitely we would need the guidance by then for the Cobb County level. So with that, good night, everyone. Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you for each and every one of you, Gabrielle, Leonard, Myron, Miss Lynn, Jonathan, Kimberly, Alea, Clarence, Christine, Geraldine, Murphy, Warren, Thomas, Donna, Jayton, Natasha. And I just read your name by the screen, but not to disrespect your position. And of course, Commissioner Richardson for everyone. So good night, everyone.